Alejandro Martinez, and this is the Algebra 2 support. Let us begin. Question A, Unit 2. Use your graphing calculator to help you sketch the graphs y equals the square root of x minus 3 and y equals the square root of x minus 3. Are the graphs the same? Should they be? Let's examine these two functions. Let's take a look at our first function, y equals the square root of x minus 3. We can tell instantly that this function is going to be a square root function because it has a square root in it. Now let's take a look at our second function, y equals the square root of x minus 3. This function as well is going to be a square root function. But what is a square root function? Well, square root functions have an original equation of y equals a square root of x minus h plus k. A stretches or compresses the graph or makes it negative or positive. This just means that a point up or down. H moves the graph left or right, while k moves the graph up or down. Now let's examine our functions. Y equals square root of x minus 3 and y equals the square root of x minus 3. The minus 3 in the first function is going to be the h value, while the minus 3 in the second function is going to be the k value. So this just means that in the first function, the function is going to be shifted 3 units to the right, while in the second function, the function is going to be shifted 3 units down from the origin. So let's sketch these graphs to see what they look like. Let's sketch our first graph, y equals square root of x minus 3. The graph is shifted 3 units to the right because of the h value. Minus 3, how you get to plus 3 is you count how many numbers you need to get to 0. And in this case, you need 3. So you're going to move the graph 3 units to the right. Now, the domain in this function is 3 to positive infinity. Domain means how far left and how far right something goes. So in this case, the leftmost part is 3, while the rightmost part is positive infinity. Therefore, we write it like this. The range in this function is 0 to positive infinity. Range is how far down something goes and how far up something goes. So in this case, it goes all the way down to 0, but goes all the way up to positive infinity. The x-intercept is 3, 0, and the x-intercept is where your graph crosses the x-axis. Let's graph our second function, y equals the square root of x minus 3. We now know that the function is shifted 3 units down because of the k value. The k value moves something up or down. In this case, it was minus 3, so we're going to shift the function 3 units down. The domain in this function is 0 to positive infinity. The leftmost part is 0, but the rightmost part is all the way to positive infinity, so we write it like that. The range in this function is negative 3 to positive infinity. It goes all the way down to negative 3, but it goes all the way up to positive infinity, so we write it like that. We have a bracket because we could land on negative 3, but we have a parentheses because we can't land on infinity. The x-intercept is 9, 0. This is where the function crosses the x-axis, while the y-intercept is 0, negative 3. The y-intercept is where your graph crosses the y-axis. Now, these functions are not the same, and some of the reasons is that the domain in the first function is 3, positive infinity, while in the second function, the domain is 0 to positive infinity. So these numbers do not match up. So right off the bat, these functions don't have the domain in common. What about the range? Well, the range in the first function is 0 to positive infinity, while the range in the second function is negative 3 to positive infinity. So once again, these functions don't have anything in common. Let's take a look at our x-intercepts. The x-intercept for our first function was 3, 0, while in our second function, the x-intercept was 9, 0. So they don't have the x-intercepts in common. Let's not ignore our y-intercepts. Let's take a look at our y-intercepts. The y-intercept in the first function was undefined because it didn't have any, while in the second function, the y-intercept was 0, negative 3. So these functions have nothing in common. So these functions are not the same, and they will never be the same because of all these factors.